Something mind-blowing happened over Jerusalem recently. This wasn't just another aircraft sighting. Eyewitnesses reported seeing a silent, hovering craft with flight movements unlike anything seen before. But here's where it gets wild. Word is spreading that this mysterious craft might be tied to a secret Elon Musk aerospace project. The fact that this happened in broad daylight with multiple witnesses suggests this wasn't meant to stay hidden. The timing and location have raised questions about what was being tested exactly. Why Jerusalem? What made this location suitable for such an unusual demonstration? Join us as we break down the details behind this mysterious launch, explore what experts are saying, and look at how Musk's latest move could reshape the future of flight. When reports first started circulating, it sounded like something pulled straight from a science fiction script. But multiple eyewitnesses described seeing a strange object in the sky that was very fast. Within hours, social media picked it up. Clips went viral and speculation spread quickly. Some sources are now linking the sighting to one of Elon Musk's aerospace programs, suggesting it may have been part of a secret test. But there are no verified images of Musk in Jerusalem, no official statements, and no confirmed footage of a launch site near the city. Instead, what's emerging is a mix of real rocket activity, optical illusions caused by atmospheric conditions, and long-standing public fascination with unexplained aerial sightings. So where did these images come from? In early 2025, people across Europe, the Middle East, and the US started posting photos of something incredible: glowing spirals and bright trails streaking across the evening sky. Reports came in from the UK, Sweden, Hungary, Croatia, and Israel, all showing the same thing: a brilliant blue spiral that looked like some kind of portal opening up above them. Turns out this wasn't alien technology at all. What everyone was seeing was the frozen exhaust plume from a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The UK's Met Office got flooded with calls and had to explain on social media that this illuminated swirl was just rocket exhausts spinning through the atmosphere and catching sunlight. French meteorologists had to calm people down too, posting that this was simply degassing from a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Not a UFO. The science behind it is pretty straightforward. When the first stage of the rocket finishes its job and starts falling back to Earth, it vents any leftover fuel. Up in the thin atmosphere, this fuel immediately freezes into tiny reflective crystals. As the rocket booster tumbles during its descent, these frozen crystals spread out in a spinning pattern. Since they are so high up, they catch and reflect sunlight even when it's getting dark on the ground. That's why people can see these spirals glowing for several minutes, long enough to grab their phones and start posting about alien visitations. One big reason these spiral sightings became so common is that SpaceX launches more rockets than anyone else these days. Their Falcon 9 has become the go-to workhorse for getting satellites and spacecraft into orbit, including secret missions for the US government. Arizona residents got a perfect example of this in July 2025. They watched what news reports called a comet-like trail from a Falcon 9 that had launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Even though the sun had already set where people were watching, the rocket exhaust stayed illuminated high up in the atmosphere. Anyone who didn't know about the launch would understandably think they were seeing something extraterrestrial. The same thing happened in March 2025 when a Falcon 9 vented fuel after launching the NROL-69 mission. People across multiple countries saw those distinctive spirals again. Planetary scientists have pointed out that these exhaust patterns aren't dangerous and can happen with other rockets too. But SpaceX launches so frequently now that these formations have become much more common than they used to be. What used to be a rare sight is now something that happens regularly. It's just that most people don't realize there's a rocket launch happening when they see it. Why did so many posts zero in on Jerusalem specifically? It is one of the oldest, most symbolic places on the planet. That history alone makes it a natural target for conspiracy theories and mysteries. Here's the thing though, there's no SpaceX facility in Jerusalem, no NASA launch pad either. When Israel launches rockets, they do it from Palmakim Air Base near the coast, nowhere close to the ancient city center. So technically, the whole idea of some advanced aircraft operating in or around Jerusalem doesn't make practical sense. But there's more to this story. Videos showing weird lights and spinning patterns over Jerusalem have been making the rounds online for years. Some of this footage goes back 10 years or more. Residents and tourists filming strange things during clear nights. The videos have sparked endless arguments about what people are seeing. Rockets? Weather phenomena? Something else? One particular video showed a glowing orb hanging above the dome of the rock before suddenly shooting straight up at incredible speed. Nobody ever came up with an official explanation that satisfied everyone. This new rumor about Musk feels like the latest chapter in an ongoing story. Take old footage of unexplained lights, add a city that's already loaded with religious and political significance, then throw in Elon Musk, someone who gets accused of developing technology years ahead of everyone else. And the pieces seem to fit together. What technology is SpaceX working on? Elon Musk's aerospace company is best known for developing Starship, a fully reusable spacecraft designed for missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. It's still undergoing tests in Texas, with updates regularly posted on the SpaceX website. The company also operates the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, which are used to launch satellites, cargo, and astronauts into orbit. There's also Starlink, an ambitious project involving thousands of satellites to deliver global internet coverage. SpaceX is working on something much bigger than their current rockets. It's called Starship, and it's basically a giant two-stage rocket system designed to carry massive payloads into space and then come back to Earth so it can be used again. This is the next step up from their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. They are building and testing Starship at a facility called Starbase down in Texas. The goal is to create the first rocket system that can go to orbit and be completely reusable. If they pull it off, Starship would be able to carry more cargo than any rocket ever built. As of May 28, 2025, they've tried launching it 9 times. 4 of those flights worked, 5 didn't. The system has 2 main parts. There's the super heavy booster that gets everything off the ground, and then there's the Starship spacecraft that goes the rest of the way. Both pieces run on SpaceX's Raptor engines, which burn liquid methane and oxygen to create enough power to break free from Earth's gravity. Here's what makes it different. Both stages are supposed to fly back and land vertically at the launch tower when they're done. That means they can be refueled and flown again instead of being thrown away like most rockets. The upper stage works as both a rocket and a spacecraft, so it can carry people or cargo. For longer trips beyond Earth's orbit, it would need to get refueled while in space. SpaceX has major plans for this thing. They want to use it for launching satellites and telescopes, sending up pieces of space stations, and even landing astronauts on the Moon. NASA has already contracted them to use a version of Starship for the Artemis 3 mission in 2027, which is supposed to put people back on the lunar surface. Beyond that, the company is seriously talking about sending humans to Mars. The whole Starship idea started back in 2005 with something they called BFR, Big Falcon Rocket. The design that exists now really came together in 2018. SpaceX's approach has been to test early and often, making changes as they go. Their first full launch happened on April 20th, 2023, but the rocket blew up just 4 minutes into the flight. The project has hit plenty of bumps. There have been delays and they lost 4 upper stages just in early 2025. But SpaceX keeps pushing forward, betting that reusable spaceflight will eventually pay off big enough to make all these setbacks worth it. When SpaceX stacks the entire Starship system together and fills it with fuel, the whole thing weighs about 5,000 tons. That's roughly 11 million pounds. The rocket stands 9 meters wide and 121 meters tall, making it one of the biggest rockets ever built. The entire system is built from stainless steel, which might sound old-fashioned, but works well for rockets. SpaceX makes both stages by stacking and welding steel cylinders that are each about 6 feet tall and just under 4 millimeters thick. It's like building with giant metal tubes. Inside the spacecraft, curved domes separate the methane and oxygen tanks. SpaceX says that when everything works perfectly, Starship should be able to carry between 100 and 150 tons to low Earth orbit or 27 tons out to geostationary orbit, where communications satellites live. The bottom part of the rocket, called Super Heavy, is 71 meters tall and 9 meters wide. It's basically 4 main sections stacked on top of each other. the engines at the bottom, then the oxygen tank, the fuel tank, and finally the inner stage that connects to the upper stage. Elon Musk mentioned back in 2021 that the final design should have a dry weight somewhere between 160 and 200 tons when it's empty. The fuel tanks make up about 80 tons of that weight, with the interstage adding another 20 tons. The two fuel tanks are separated by what's called a common bulkhead. It's one wall that serves as the bottom of one tank and the top of the other. This is similar to how the old Saturn V rocket was built. After the second test flight, SpaceX changed this dome design to be more curved, which slightly altered how much fuel each tank can hold. These tanks hold a massive amount of propellant, 3,400 tons total. That breaks down to 2,700 tons of liquid oxygen and 700 tons of liquid methane. The fuel gets fed to the engines through a single funnel system that distributes it to all 33 engines. SpaceX has been upgrading this fuel system as they build new boosters. The newer Block 3 boosters have a much larger transfer tube connecting the engines to the methane tank. Plus, they have two fuel connection points instead of one for oxygen and one for methane. The bottom of the rocket is where things get complex. 20 engines are mounted around the outer edge, while 13 engines are clustered in the center and mounted on something called a thrust puck. This puck is reinforced with large steel structures that not only support the weight of those inner engines, but also provide pathways for fuel to reach them. For landing, the rocket has a special header tank that supplies liquid oxygen only to those inner 13 engines. On newer boosters, this header tank has been expanded with additional tanks to give it more capacity for the landing burn. The methane system is integrated with this header tank setup, with the methane funnel running partially through it. Starting with Booster 7, SpaceX added 4 aerodynamic fins on the outside of the oxygen tank. These fins help with lift during descent, but they also house important equipment like batteries, pressure vessels, and carbon dioxide tanks for fire suppression. Some boosters use hydraulic power units instead of the fin-mounted systems. When they do, all the ignition equipment, batteries, and communication gear get housed in the hydraulic unit cover rather than in the fins. The Super Heavy booster that launches Starship is packed with 33 Raptor engines arranged in a very specific way. 20 engines form a ring around the outside and stay in fixed positions, while 13 engines sit in the center and can pivot for steering. The outer engines fire up from the ground but shut down after liftoff to save weight. The center engines restart later for steering and landing maneuvers. After the first test flight, SpaceX switched from hydraulic to electric systems for moving the center engines. This change eliminated the need for heavy hydraulic equipment. They also upgraded the fire suppression and engine shielding to better contain any engine failures. During descent, the booster releases gas through 18 external vents to support the engines, and this setup has become a key part of Super Heavy's design. The Raptor engines use something called a full-flow stage combustion cycle with methane and oxygen. This technology has rarely been tested in rocket history, but it delivers better performance by cooling the fuel below its boiling point to make it denser and flow faster. The early Block 1 versions of Super Heavy produced 73.5 meganewtons of thrust, more than double what NASA's Saturn V rocket could manage. Future versions like Block 3 and Block 4 should push this even higher, targeting over 98 meganewtons. When these engines fire, they create visible shock diamonds in their exhaust, those diamond-shaped patterns that show the intense pressure and power at work. When the booster flies through the upper atmosphere without engine power, it uses small gas thrusters for control, backed up by vents placed strategically around the structure. Between the booster and Starship sits the inner stage, which has changed quite a bit over time. Made from stainless steel and equipped with grid fins that weigh about 3 tons each, it handles stabilization and recovery. The fins stay extended during flight to save time, though this causes some bending when the stages separate. The inner stage also has lifting points that let the launch tower hoist or catch the booster. SpaceX tested this catch system in 2022 and proved it worked in 2024, which was a major step toward rapid reuse. Starting with Booster 11, SpaceX added a new 1.8-meter vented inner stage to enable hot staging. This means the upper stage can fire its engines while still attached to the booster, giving the launch an extra push before separation. On the newer Block 3 boosters, The inner stage is built directly into the methane tank, making it both lighter and stronger. They also reduce the number of grid fins from 4 to 3, positioning them at 90, 90, and 180 degrees around the tank. SpaceX no longer plans to drop this section during flight on Block 2 and Block 3 models. It stays as a permanent part of the vehicle. These changes show how SpaceX keeps refining the system with every flight, pushing rocket technology forward while keeping reusability as the main goal. The Block 2 version of Starship measures 52.1 meters tall and 9 meters wide, putting it among the biggest spacecraft ever constructed. The vehicle breaks down into 4 main sections: the engine bay at the bottom, then the oxygen tank, methane fuel tank, and payload bay at the top. While it looks similar to the retired Block 1 design, Block 2 picked up almost 2 extra meters in height. Elon Musk has said the empty weight comes in around 100 tons. The real challenge for Starship is surviving re-entry. When it comes screaming back through the atmosphere at incredible speeds, the windward side faces temperatures that would melt most materials. SpaceX covers this area with 18,000 black hexagonal heat shield tiles that can handle temperatures up to 1,400 degrees Celsius. These silica-based tiles mount with pins and have small gaps between them, so they can expand under extreme heat without breaking. The design lets them be reused with just basic maintenance between flights. After the 4th test flight, SpaceX realized they needed even more protection. They added a second layer of heat shielding on some vehicles, likely made from Pyron, a carbon composite material. This extra layer goes underneath the existing heat tiles on the control flaps of the 6th test vehicle. Between the heat shield and this ablative layer, the protection system adds about 10.5 tons to the ship's weight. The goal is better survival during descent and the ability to fly repeatedly without major repairs between missions. Inside the spacecraft, the fuel and oxidizer tanks share a common wall, similar to how the Saturn V rocket was built. Block 2 introduced curved elliptical domes that work better structurally than the cone-shaped ones from Block 1. The earlier version had 24 structural reinforcements inside the oxygen tank, but Block 2 added similar supports to the methane tank as well. This creates a stronger, more balanced structure that can handle higher pressures and support more demanding flight patterns as SpaceX works toward full orbital reuse. The tanks hold 1,500 tons of propellant total, 1,170 tons of liquid oxygen, and 330 tons of liquid methane. That fuel load powers all the engines during liftoff, climb to orbit, and landing burns. Every part of Starship's tank design focuses on efficiency, durability, and SpaceX's long-term goal of making deep space missions both affordable and repeatable. With each new version, the structure moves closer to their vision of a fully reusable transport system for traveling between planets. So what flew over Jerusalem that day? Was it just another SpaceX exhaust spiral, creating a light show in the atmosphere? Or was it something more intentional? Something that hasn't been officially acknowledged yet? The boundary between fact and speculation gets blurred. But one thing is certain: people witnessed something, and the internet hasn't stopped talking about it since. Join us as we dig into how this old airframe ended up leading the conversation about tomorrow's air power.